Have you ever been the victim of a crime? Well, I have. It was about 20 years ago. I was stationed in Rome, Italy, and I went with about 3 of my priest friends, and we were going to go out and take the bus and go down to St. Peter's Basilica. Now, different countries, people get on the bus in different ways. If you're in London, all the people line up in single file and get on the bus very properly. Hello, Nigel. Good morning, Mortimer. And this. But in Italy, the people just stand there in a big kind of crowd. The bus comes, doors open, and everyone just jams on and pushes and shoves to get up the steps. So my priest friends and I, we were trying to get on the bus, and as I stepped up on the bus, I felt a hand in my front pocket grabbing my wallet. So I screamed out, "Pickpocket, pickpocket, borsaiolo, borsaiolo," in Italian. And then all of a sudden, the hand went away. And I turned around, and one of my priest friends had picked up the thief and was holding him up in the air with his feet like this. And my priest friend said, "Michael, is everything okay? Have you got your wallet?" I go, "Yeah." And then my priest friend just threw the thief off the bus on the ground, and all the old ladies clapped. That priest was Father Paul Shaughnessy, right here, right there. It's my guardian angel, okay? You see, crime in itself is a result of original sin. If there were no original sin, there'd be no jails because there'd be no criminals. We wouldn't need any bank vaults because there'd be no stealing. We wouldn't need any police. We wouldn't need any Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force because there'd be no war. We wouldn't need a Pentagon. We wouldn't need nuclear missiles. We wouldn't need submarines or aircraft carriers. All of that is because of original sin. Original sin is the most obvious doctrine that the Catholic Church teaches. And if you locked your car before you came to school, or locked your house if you were the last one out this morning, it means you believe in original sin. Okay? Everybody on the whole planet, since the history of the world, has been infected with original sin, except for 2 people: Jesus and his mother Mary. That did not touch them, but it's touched everybody else. And so today, when we say we celebrate Immaculate Conception, it's not the day that Mary became pregnant with Jesus, even though that was the story that was read in the Bible. It was the day that Mary's mother, whose name is Saint Anne, it's the day she became pregnant with Mary. And Mary's father's name was Joachim, her mother's name was Anne. I've been to their house, it's in Jerusalem, we still have it, you can go there. But the day that St. Anne became pregnant with Mary, the original sin did not enter into her. When the angel said to Mary, "Hail, full of grace," Mary was really full, so full that no sin at all touched her. In 1854, when Mary appeared in Lourdes to a girl named Bernadette, and Mary gave her some instructions like, "Build me a church here and tell people to come and pray here." But Mary never said her name. So Bernadette went to the priest and said, "Mary wants a church here and that." And the priest said, "Well, ask her what her name is." So Bernadette goes back to the grotto. The lady appears, and Bernadette says to the lady, "The priest wants me to ask you, what's your name?" And Mary looked up at the sky and said, "I am the Immaculate Conception." That was 1854. It's right around that time that your school was founded here in downtown New Orleans and named the College of the Immaculate Conception after the Blessed Mother, the Virgin Mary. Now, what's the purpose of the Immaculate Conception? It's to make Mary pure so that when she conceived Jesus, Jesus would obviously be poor because he's be pure because he's the Son of God, so that Jesus could be born, he could die, he could rise from the dead, and then he could appear to the apostles and forgive sins, and then make it possible for us to go to heaven. Now, one of the big effects of original sin besides crime and war is death. Now, like Father Shaughnessy, like Father Franck, like Father Cantrell, who's here with me this morning over here, we've all served with the Navy and the Marine Corps. And I was serving with the Marines in the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And I'll never forget, before the battle started, they got all the Marines from my unit together. We were 3,000 Marines living in a tent city in the middle of the desert. And we didn't know when the war was going to start, when would be the first shot fired, when we would go into battle. And we knew it was getting close when they sent the commanding general to talk to us. And they got all the Marines together, and we were jammed even tighter together than you are in this church, okay? And they built a special tower for the general to get up and give us his speech. His name was General Mattis. I'm sure you've heard of him. So General Mattis gets up in the tower, and he tells us why we're there, the purpose of the war. And the last thing he says is, looking at all the Marines, most of you are young. It's true, most were 21 years old and younger. He said, most of you have never been in battle before. You've never had someone who's tried to kill you. The bullets will be flying, and I guarantee you will all be afraid to die. And you're going to have to learn how to deal with that. And that's where the priest comes in. So I was sent with my own convoy to visit all Marines encamped along the border with Iraq, little groups, and I'd get all the Marines together and I'd say, okay, the battle's going to start tomorrow. If it's not your turn to die, no bullet will find you. If it is your turn to die, there's only one thing that will keep you from going to heaven, and that's mortal sin. And we have an antidote to mortal sin, and that's called sacrament of confession, where the priest has the power from God to forgive any and all sins. I said, I will not leave this camp, I will not leave this place until every Marine that wants to go to confession can come forward. Well, all the Marines came to confession, even the Baptists, okay? They all lined up. Everybody wanted that forgiveness so they could be pure. See, that's the other purpose of the Immaculate Conception. Mary is pure, and we're called to imitate her in that purity. I'll tell you something else, the Marines. So sitting around with the Marines, we were eating our evening rations. It's called MREs, meals that are ready to eat, though the Marines called them meals that refuse to exit. And after the meals, we're sitting in a circle, sitting on some boxes, and the guys take out their wallets and they pass around. Hey, I want to show you guys my wife. Look, oh, she's really pretty. Other guys, look at my wife here. Okay, we pass that picture around. Other guys that weren't married, here's a picture of my girlfriend. So they pass around. Well, I didn't take out any picture from my wallet. And so they looked at me and knew I was a chaplain. They thought maybe it could be Protestant, could be Catholic, because it just have a cross. So they said to me, Chaplain, how many children do you have? And I said, well, I'm a Catholic priest, and we're strongly encouraged not to have any. And I said, in the Catholic Church, the priests aren't allowed to get married. We live for our congregation. And they go, what? And then I said, not only that, as a Jesuit priest, I've taken a perpetual vow of chastity. And they all went, and one of the young Marines, he looked at me and he said, but sir, what do you do for sex? Now, people don't usually ask priests that question, you know. So I said, listen, Marines, listen, you guys. You've left your wives way over in the U.S., and you're over here in the desert of Iraq, and you're leaving them behind for a higher purpose in order to defend our country and make peace in the world. The Catholic priest is always on duty against the power of Satan and evil. And in order to do that and be that, we take our vow of chastity. We are all called to imitate Mary in chastity until we get married. I know it's not easy. I know you may say, but Bishop, I've got temptations. Well, I have temptations too. Guys say, no, you don't understand, Father. My temptations, I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most temptations. My temptations are the same as yours. And for that, we have the sacrament of confession so that we can be purified and be that state like Mary is. You know, they say, those people, they did a study that go to Mass, that go to confession, that practice their religion, live longer than people that have no faith. The average, it said in the newspaper, they did a study, you live 7 years longer than people that don't go to church. Well, guys, I will tell you, if you go to Mass, if you go to communion, if you go to confession, you won't just live 7 years longer. You will live in eternity. And that's what you and I are called to by Christ and his mother Mary.